The B2B sector has been telling us a lot every day. They're doing a multitude of interviews. There's a lot of different companies putting out information on what they desire and need with the technology. And once again, this is an industry that is stands to bring in trillions upon trillions of dollars to DLT technology. And they're letting the people know what they desire and that is coming because there's no other way. There's no other way. Now, when you look at something, you look at these different cryptos, native cryptocurrencies, et cetera, like XRP, Chainlink, Solana, XLM, Algorand, et cetera. Now, it's like David Schwartz said, sure, $1 million buys you $1 million of XRP, no matter XRP's price. But we have to create that separation to understand that even though the customer, the client, whoever's sending that capital, they're buying $1 million and sending that $1 million, that it still affects. It's going to take that XRP, those native cryptos, off the market. And that makes it more rare to have them consistently in use. Whether there's holding, they're going to be, I read an article earlier about, what are companies going to do when it comes to holding requirements? And that's not based on Ripple. I don't know why people are seeing in such a one-dimensional way. This is a multi-dimensional thing. Now, Ripple and companies like Ripple, Chainlink, Solana, and then you go to your SBIs, your upholds. Sure, can they set the infrastructure? Yes. Can they get you started? Yes. But after that, it's up to you. These companies, these large financial institutions have their own way of running things. So once it's in their hands, they decide what happens. So if internally, and remember, there's going to be a lot of private ecosystems. Don't worry, I'm going to jump around. I'm giving a lot of information, but look into all of this, okay? Now, just to cover that one aspect. Internally, we don't know what they're going to do. So we're going to enter an era of discovery of a different degree, of a different type, because we don't know if internally with their private ecosystem, they're going to require this, to keep a little XRP in the system. Maybe that's possible. I'm not saying it's going to happen. That's possible. But nonetheless, whether they hold some XRP or it's in constant use, remember all the money. That's what they said, right? All the money. Okay, so even if there isn't a massive amount of holding going on of XRP, which I do believe there's going to be, let's not kid ourselves here. Everybody wants to make capital off of these things. People are going to hold it. Companies are going to hold it. Behind Bitcoin and Ethereum, XRP is the next big one up. It's the one. When it comes from the utility coins, it's the one. And then everybody else is going to have their day, your Chainlink, Solanas, in my humble opinion, not financial advice. They're all going to go skyrocket to their different degrees. But yes, those companies are going to want a piece of that. You can't have a piece of that if you're not actually holding it for any degree of time. And then perception is everything. So people could argue all day, but it's merely perception, no argument needed. What is holding to you? Is holding a day? Because that was still held for a day. Or a year or two? Does it make a difference? As long as it impacts that price, it makes no difference. And the reason it makes no difference is because if you're a moneymaker, all that matters is you held long enough for it to impact that price, right? That's whether you're selling it or you're about to sell it, you're attempting to sell it, or you just want to see that price go up and you have intentions to sell at some point in the future. It doesn't make a difference. If the activity positively impacted the price, that's what matters. And there is no way around it. And if that were not the case, you wouldn't see, even from the retail activity now, you wouldn't have seen XRP go from like 50 cents, 60 cents to where it is today, if that were not the case. So once again, there's that divide there. It's like, yeah, so it's beneficial for whoever's sending the value to be able to, let's say they use Ripple's technology, which is not the only one on XRPL and will not be the only one. We're merely at the beginning, and there will be many more companies coming out, many more than Ripple and Volante and SBI. There will be many more if we didn't have this SEC thing that we're now done with. So over the next few years, you're going to see more companies come out using XRPL in different ways, and they're going to do it because it's a popular, powerful chain that if they present this technology that they're building on the XRPL is going to open doors, just the name alone. And that it's in association with, reputationally with Ripple. It's going to open doors. So more and more companies are going to use it in a variety of ways. And that is also something that we're going to have to wait to see how it impacts everything in the future. Now, once again, circling back around to B2B, because that's the article that I have in front of me here. I'm going to read this little tidbit to you, okay? And what I'm going to do in the future, because I have so many thoughts and sometimes I'm covering this one aspect or this second aspect and I forget the third or fourth, I'm going to get myself like a notebook and just start writing stuff down. And then as I'm speaking and I'm thinking thoughts and I'm going to write stuff down and so I can remember everything. But now let's read this little tidbit here. Today's businesses are faced with a trifecta of challenges. This article is titled This Week in B2B, Business to Business. Listen, that sector is heating up. That aspect is heating up. They're letting people know, hey, we need this technology. We need it now. But let's keep going. A trifecta of challenges. Now, look how they laid this out. It tells the story right from the first sentence. Organizational leaders must navigate technological advancements. Okay, now, in all of the different articles that we've covered, right, about what they desire from technology, what have they been saying? Like the last 7 or 8 of them. Talking about DLT, and then we sprinkle in a couple of them that are also speaking about AI. So AI and DLT. And they've been speaking about DLT even more because that's what's about to flood the market, right? It's about to dominate. So technological advancements, they told us about, now also keep in mind, even when they don't say DLT, if you look at the description of what they desire, and then you look at what provides the solution, the only thing that provides the solution to all of those different problematic situations is DLT. They say, well, the cost of legacy system stuff is too high. Well, DLT brings down the cost of implementation. Oh, well, we don't have enough, value to put into training all of our different employees. Well, DLT remedies that. Some of them offer free courses, but they also have easeability of use and easeability of deployment. Some of them are narrowing things down to being able to deploy with a single code or two lines of code, things like that. I'm just showing that they've almost oversimplified things to make it easier, right? Then they're handing you infrastructure, not forcing you to build it internally like what a lot of the legacy system has been demanding of them. The only way that they're going to get something like that handed to them is from DLT right now. And it's because the DLT companies have had so many years now to perfect that technology where you can deploy it quite easily, which means now it's going to be easier for these businesses to get on board with any demands from the legacy system. As you have seen, there's many. They can get on board with any demands for them to come into alignment with certain regulations, certain standards. It doesn't make a difference. DLT and more so DLT in combination with AI is going to do it. AI couldn't do it by itself. And that's another thing we're going to get into in here is why AI is going to be combined with DLT. This is a reason why Ripple, and the reason I'm going to cover is why Ripple spoke about AI in combination with DLT in the past. Ripple spoke about it. And once again, it's one of those things where they spoke about it powerfully and then they just left it alone. They don't have to continuously be talking about something. All they have to do is put it out there and get to work. And what more can we want? I would want that. I don't need you talking all the time. I don't need you trying to be cool. Get to work. That's it. If you're going to contribute, that is. If not, just get out the way. That's how I look at it. All right. So now, technological advancements, which is going to be DLT in combination with AI to a lesser degree, in my humble opinion, in this aspect. Then it says economic pressures, which also, I know I said that twice. That's because I had like one path I was going down. Then my mind was like, wait a minute, Mick, let's go down this path. So that's where I'm going to go. That's why I've repeated it twice. All right. DLT resolves that as well. So with once you start looking at what's going on right now, and I'm telling you, this is why you've had Janet Yellen bring it up. You've had the BIS bring it up. You've had the IMF bring it up. You've had ECB talking about it recently in a variety of different ways. They have their own ways of speaking on these things, but fragmentation, and I'm trying to think of the differentiation here. Fragmentation and siloing go hand in hand. As they're fragmented, these different countries, these different financial systems, as you see, even their allies are going against each other now. You haven't seen that? It's all over the place right now. Siloing is becoming the thing now. They're all getting walled off. So economic pressure, how does DLT help with that? This is another reason why there's a flood of capital, a flood of volume, a flood of uses. There's a multi-dimensional flood coming for DLT. And most of those aspects are going to make that price rise. There's not one aspect. There's not one utility. There's many different ways it's going to be used. There's many different factors and variables that are going to lend to the prices of these things rising. Not one. Not one, but I see many, many article writers. They're highlighting just like one aspect when there's many. But wait, so DLT clearly, as if it remains a neutral platform, which makes sense. If we look at one of the leaders, we're only looking at Ripple and XRP because it's one of the leaders. Okay. Not to mention that I'm a XRP supporter, period. I like the bank coins across the board, period. But if they stay neutral, which once again, if we're looking at Ripple, they have built most of their business so far outside of the US. Now they're about to dominate in the US, it appears, because of all these different hurdles being removed. So I don't think they have any choice but to remain neutral, which means what? They're one of the few technologies that has the ability to issue global reach to any company that utilizes it. That's a lot of value to be brought in if you're the only one that can do such a thing on a global scale. Swift can't do it anymore. AI is not going to help with this, and I'm going to cover that in a moment. DLT can. We have already established those different corridors and relationships from China to the UAE to the US. DLT companies have the best relationships, hence why the golden age is arriving and the doors open a little more each day. So with economic pressures, let's say companies wanted to still engage in certain transactions. They had to obey certain laws. They had to pay certain taxes, etc. That can all be ensured through smart contracts. And then, of course, triple checked, quadruple checked, and secure it with AI. AI can serve different functions as well, right? But smart contracts are the substantial layer there. So it can relieve those economic pressures by allowing business to continue, albeit you may still have, it may be a little bit different than before, pluses and minuses, of course, but that it will still be achievable at that point in the future. Not now, of course, right? We're still at the beginning right now, but it relieves some economic pressures. Then the balancing and rebalancing doesn't have to be done on a human level anymore. You can have advanced AI systems if companies are willing to pay the money in combination with DLT to make sure that all information is properly distributed. So it's not one source that you're getting financial information from because you want to verify it with a multitude of sources. That's going to be key in the future. Everybody wants transparency. Nobody wants their money played with, right? So you're going to have to, once again, have DLT for that. Immutable ledger with distributed information on multitude of servers or something like that, something akin to that, right? That can help alleviate economic pressures. Once again, you can still transact. And there can be that neutral established trust. Right. So now then it says here, once again, it says, and shifting B2B expectations. So, of course, one of the biggest expectations is for them to not only make a profit, but to exceed profit expectations. That can happen. You're going to save more money than ever with DLT mechanisms and offerings. I think we saw an article the other day. I didn't cover it, but there was an article came out the other day talking about how DLT allows affordable entry into the advanced technologies, offerings. So it's going to save you money. You can reallocate that. Once again, you can do business worldwide. If you're wise, it's not that difficult to figure out where the hotspots are to do business, depending on what industry you're in, which also AI is going to help you with that now. Research where is best to sell, who sold what here, how much capital is being made with this product. How much capital? You don't have to do that manual research anymore or pay a team anymore if you don't really want to. Of course, you can always involve the human aspect. But one day AI can pretty much do that now, but it's going to be perfected in the future. So if you pay for that package, you're going to be able to deploy with ease and do with ease what was difficult in the past. So that's going to increase your possibility of making a profit, period. Who's not going to go for that? Which business? Once again, we're talking trillions of dollars, right? Trillions of dollars. So once again, if we go back and we take all of that, we're looking at B2B transactions, retail transactions. We're looking at central banks using this. This is what they claim. Ripple recently said they have more central banks they didn't even announce. That's what they said. I'm paraphrasing, but we covered those articles. And I think I put up 2 screenshots of that. If not, you can look it up and you'll see all the different articles of them saying that. or alluding to that, right? All of these different transactions and all of these different companies utilizing these particular technologies, how did that price not explode? Once again, and that's a variety of different uses. Payroll, do they continuously, you think that what's wiser to continuously have to go to other companies like Uphold or Ripple or Volante Tech or Stellar or something like that to acquire your native protocol that you're going to use? Let's say they use a combination of RLUSD and XRP in a private ecosystem. This is merely one aspect. One possibility, but they have a private ecosystem. Do I want to continuously go to Ripple, or do I just want to buy this allotment of XRP and keep it in flow here? We're doing payroll here and bonuses and such. Let me just keep this in flow here. Keep it in flow. It doesn't matter what the price is. Like David Schwartz said, I send this guy $1, it's going to be $1 on the other end. $1 XRP is $1, right? And you have whatever that mechanism is. I forgot what it's called. Where the transaction is supposed to happen so quickly that it barely is a blip on the radar when it comes to, you don't have any loss, too much loss in the capital, even with volatility, right? Which is probably the perfection of that. I don't know how far it's come or what they're going to deploy in the future, but the perfection of that is probably why. And like you could say I'm wrong. People are going, there's always going to be someone who disagrees with you. I'm perfectly fine with that. But that's probably why the representative of China's financial system, when they were on the stage with Garlinghouse and the questioner asked them about volatility, they said they're not worried about volatility. And then that wasn't just, he was on stage with Garlinghouse. So of course and Ripple has a great relationship with the financial leaders in China. But that goes for any of these top utility coins. Pretty much they function so similarly that if they're not worried about the volatility with something, let's say he was speaking directly about XRP but it applies to all of these top utility coins across the board, period. You can say that with any of them. And so let's say you don't agree with what I just said, then you must at least contemplate, why would he say they're not concerned with volatility in the usage of DLT technology? Why did he say that? What is the catalyst? What is the reason? What is this unknown variable? There has to be one that makes them not concerned, even though they're going to be utilizing it, because we know they have a lot of deals and a lot of, I say deals. I like to say deals. They have a lot of partnerships in China. Wow. Whoa. Oh, my goodness. I didn't realize we went that deep with time. But let me get to this AI, because I still have Bitcoin to get to. But so AI, then they get to AI. Here's the thing with AI, folks. This is enterprise AI is coming to support key business operations. And I want to ask you one question, and maybe some of you are so sharp, you're just going to have the answer. How does the AI systems right now in today's geopolitical climate, how does it not become siloed? It doesn't seem to me that the West is going to be too on board with utilizing AI systems coming out of the East. And if someone were tempted to go against that line of thinking, I will point you toward the complaints that were raised against what was that? The AI that was released, DeepSeek. When DeepSeek came out, and it was all the rage that DeepSeek, I believe DeepSeek was made by China, I believe. And a lot of people in the West were like, oh, we don't want to use that. You know, the problem's there. I don't have to elaborate. Now that was a while ago. Now look at what's going on in the world right now. You think that the West and the East are just going to be, let's use their systems now. Maybe things change. Maybe they change, and sometimes change happens slowly. Sometimes change happens meteorically. But as of right now, today, this moment, AI is going to be siloed. Everyone's getting very touchy over their information. So how do you still utilize enterprise AI, which is going to be powerful, no doubt about it, and not be siloed? How do you max it out? The only way you max it out is in combination with DLT. You combine it with DLT. DLT provides the global reach, keeps everything neutral, keeps everything transparent. There's no games to be played. Like I said, all of these world powers at some point, because they're so enwrapped with each other, despite the illusions. They're so enwrapped with each other. I just don't see how they don't come to the table at some point. One over here owns the other's farmland. The other one over here needs their products. They're addicted to their cheap products. Then the other one over here needs to sell to them, because without them being the biggest consumer, who are you selling to? At some point, despite the illusions and all of the different pride, the pride must be put to the side. And I would think, logically, these world powers must come to the table. But when they do, they will need a neutral platform, once again, if they're going to interact on some level. And that's where DLT comes in. DLT solves all of these problems as of now. If that changes in the future, then we're going to have to change our verbiage, of course. But okay. Now, I have so many thoughts on that, but that's a few major aspects, I think, to why did we even talk about interbank payments? I'm not even sure we did. But as to why these prices, in my humble opinion, the golden age is right there. It's coming. And that's why all the large asset managers are bullish, and Ripple is representatives walking around smiling, and they're talking about deals that they don't want to. They're telling us they have partnerships, but they don't want to tell us who they are. And they're happy because things are going well. Golden age is coming. So now, it's my humble opinion. It's not financial advice, okay? All right. So now, wait. Okay, so Bitcoin news. Bitcoin price analysis, daily chart hints at accumulation while momentum divides. Let's find out what's going on. So it says Bitcoin traded at $83,681 on April 13th, 2025. Of course, they didn't need to put that, but they did. With a market cap of 1.66 trillion, a 24-hour trading volume of $26.01 billion. All right, so now it says on the daily chart, Bitcoin continued its recovery from a recent pullback low near 74,434. No big deal in my humble opinion. Climbing with a defined range capped by resistance at $88,000. The market showed moderate upward momentum, showed resilience as it has before. But the price action remained largely confined between support around 74,000 and resistance just below 88,000. Let's scroll down just a little bit. Everyone, bear with me, okay? So it says the daily chart's moving averages offered further confirmation of mixed sentiment. Short-term traders such as the exponential moving average, short-term traders, my goodness. Short-term indicators such as the exponential moving average and simple moving average over the 10 minus, 20 minus, and 30 the technical divergence. This is the important part I wanted to get to. The technical divergence underscores the presence of short-term optimism and amid broader structural hesitation, which is powerful once again when you realize they put out a bunch of articles that said that the big money people and large asset managers have flipped from short-term. Most of them flipped from short-term to long-term. So now you have long-term optimism sort of combining with short-term optimism. What do you think is going to happen in the long run? I think that should result in the price increasing dramatically at some point. Once again, none of the major catalysts have left. It says amid broader structural hesitation, reinforcing a cautious range-based approach until the market breaks convincingly in either direction. Another thing I've been seeing that I would like to just put out there is I think it's been interesting. There's been a real interesting positive push for Bitcoin. Even amidst this volatility for a while, there was a lot of negative articles being put out, but now it's starting to turn, which is interesting, right? What's the catalyst? What's the reason that these article writers are now putting out all of these these are big time websites as well. At least that's what they claim, right? But let's see if that positive push does something, right? Because they're starting to, when people take in something all the time, sometimes it can have an impact on them. And a lot of these Bitcoin article writers, they definitely wield their power. So we shall see. And here's the strange thing about it. They know that right now, in my humble opinion, you might disagree. It seems that if you're reading those articles like I am, the ones that I am, It seems like they know they're not talking to retail. It's like they're trying to talk to the businesses, right? Does it seem that way? They're trying to get the businesses. They're like, well, this is why this nation is using Bitcoin. This is why this central bank should use Bitcoin instead of gold. They know who they're talking to. They're not talking to the regular retail people anymore. Not all of them, right? That's interesting to me. That's very interesting. So I don't know how many businesses are reading articles, but I wouldn't put it past them. You'd be surprised who watches the videos, right? So they may be onto something. We'll see if that has an impact. So now that you have that information, well, let me end it with this. I'm super bullish on Bitcoin for now. I'll tell later on if I'm not, that's what I'm going to say. But until those positive catalysts go away, Bitcoin's super bullish in my eyes. So now that you have that information, what are you going to do with it? I know what I'm going to do with it. So until next time, everybody, let's get to the money.